Hello, friend. It's Arthur. The house is quiet this afternoon. The loudest sound is the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the hall, a steady heartbeat in a home that has known so much life. I'm sitting here in my usual armchair, the one with the worn arms holding a small teacup. It was Eleanor's. It's delicate, with tiny blue forget-me-nots painted along the rim. Holding it, it feels like holding a memory, warm and real. In the quiet, you notice things. You notice the way the light slants through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. And you remember. You remember the laughter that used to fill these rooms, the scent of Eleanor's baking from the kitchen, the sound of our children's feet on the stairs. And yes, you also remember the arguments. It seems a strange thing to recall with any sort of fondness, doesn't it? The disagreements. But a life shared, a long and deeply woven life like the one I had with my Eleanor for 58 years, is not a life without friction. It is a life of two distinct people learning, day by day, how to become one. And that learning process, well, it involves a bit of sanding and shaping. Sometimes the dust flies. We believed, as our faith taught us, that marriage is a holy covenant. But a covenant isn't a promise of perfection. It's a promise to remain, to tend to the garden of the relationship, even when the weeds of misunderstanding begin to grow. And in our 58 years, I learned that the most important tool in that garden wasn't a sharp word, or a clever argument, or even a stubborn silence. It was one simple, humble phrase. A phrase that, more than any other, had the power to calm the storm and bring us back to one another. When we were young, I thought arguments were contests. You gathered your evidence, you presented your case, and you aimed to be declared right. It's a foolish pride, the kind that puffs up a young man's chest. I remember a disagreement. It must have been in our first or second year of marriage, about something as trivial as the proper way to hang a picture frame. I had my logic, my measurements. Eleanor had her eye, her feeling for the space. The conversation grew tense. Voices were raised, not in anger really, but in a desperate need to be proven correct. And in the end, I won. The picture was hung my way, but the silence that followed was heavier than any hammer I had used. We sat in the same room that evening, miles apart. I had won the battle over the picture frame, but I had lost the peace of our home. It was a hollow victory. I've spoken with my friend Thomas about this over the years as he tends to his garden. He once told me, Arthur, some weeds you pull, and some you just learn to live with. You have to calculate the cost of the battle. He was right. That evening, I learned that in a marriage, if one person wins an argument, both people have, in some small way, lost. The goal isn't victory, it's harmony. It's remembering that you are on the same team. The prize is not being right, it's being together. Of course, not all disagreements are so trivial. Life brings real challenges, financial worries, parenting decisions, the sorrows of loss. In those moments, the stakes feel higher, and the heart has a tendency to harden in self-protection. When we feel misunderstood or hurt, our first instinct is often to build a wall. We stop talking. Or what's worse, we use silence as a weapon. That kind of silence isn't peace. It's the sound of a door being barred from the inside. It's a cold and lonely quiet filled with unspoken resentments and replayed grievances. It's a dangerous place for a marriage to be. Because in that silence, we begin to tell ourselves stories about the other person, that they don't care, that they don't respect us, that they are willfully causing us pain. Decades ago, a business partner betrayed my trust in a way that nearly cost me everything. The anger and bitterness I carried from that experience were like a poison. It took me years and a great deal of prayer to learn the difficult, soul-stretching work of forgiveness. I learned that forgiveness isn't about excusing the other person's actions. It's about freeing your own heart from the prison of resentment. That lesson found its way into my marriage. When Eleanor and I were at an impasse, when our hearts had grown hard and distant, I would remember the poison of that old bitterness. I knew I couldn't let it take root in my own home. Pride and a hardened heart will block the flow of grace between two people quicker than anything else. It requires humility, a willingness to be the first to soften, to lay down your defenses. And that is where the phrase began to take shape in my heart. The phrase is not magic. It is not an apology, nor an admission of guilt. It is something far more powerful. It is an invitation. In the middle of a heated discussion, when we were both dug into our positions, when the air was thick with frustration and misunderstanding, one of us would pause, take a breath, and say it. The phrase was, "Help me understand." That's it. Just 3 simple words. Not, "Why don't you understand me?" Not, "You're not making any sense." Just a quiet, humble request. Help me understand. I remember one particular evening. We were disagreeing about a decision concerning one of our adult children. We both felt so strongly, so passionately, that our own perspective was the right one. We were talking past each other, our words like ships passing in the night, each firing warning shots. The wall was going up, I could feel it. The air was growing cold. And then Eleanor stopped. She looked at me, her eyes tired but full of that deep love I knew so well, and she said it so softly. "Arthur, help me understand why this is so important to you." The effect was instantaneous. It was as if all the air went out of my anger, my need to be right, to win, simply dissolved. She wasn't agreeing with me. She was validating that my feelings were real. And she was creating a space for them to be heard. She was inviting me to lower my sword and simply show her my heart. And so I did. I explained my fears, the deeper worries that were hiding beneath my stubborn arguments. And when I was done, I looked at her and asked the same thing. "Now, please, help me understand." And she did. The argument ended. The conversation began. If something in this is resonating with you, I'd be so grateful to know. You might just type, "I'm listening," in the comments below, so we know we're in this together. It helps to know we are not alone on this path. Help me understand is a phrase of profound humility and respect. It does 3 remarkable things. First, it immediately de-escalates the conflict. An argument is a power struggle. This phrase is a peace treaty. It signals that you are laying down your weapons. You are shifting from a posture of combat to one of curiosity. You are saying, "I care more about you than I care about this fight." Second, it makes the other person feel seen and heard. So often, what we are fighting for is not the thing we are fighting about. We are fighting to feel that our perspective matters, that our feelings are valid. When you ask someone to help you understand, you are giving them a profound gift. You are telling them, "Your inner world is important to me, and I want to visit it." And third, it changes the goal of the conversation. The goal is no longer to win, but to connect. It turns adversaries into partners, working together to solve a shared problem, the gap in understanding between them. My friend Elias, the woodworker, often talks about the strength of a good joint. He says the pieces have to be shaped perfectly to fit together, to be strong enough to bear weight. This phrase, it's the tool you use to shape the pieces. It allows you to see where the rough edges are, where things aren't fitting, so you can work on them together. It makes the bond stronger. This isn't easy, I know. It requires you to set your own ego aside, which is perhaps the hardest work any of us can do. It requires patience, but the reward is a depth of intimacy that a life of winning arguments can never provide. In the end, what is a long marriage made of? It is made of 1,000 small moments, shared cups of tea, laughter over a silly mistake, a comforting hand in the dark. And it is also made of the disagreements, the moments of friction that, when navigated with grace, actually polish the relationship, revealing a deeper beauty. Sitting here now, holding Eleanor's teacup, I can barely remember the details of the things we argued about. The picture frame, the finances, the long-forgotten slights, they have all faded. They are like stones that have been worn smooth by the river of time. What I remember with a clarity that still takes my breath away is the feeling of coming back to one another, the relief, the warmth, the quiet understanding that would settle in the room after one of us had the courage to say, "Help me understand." Those moments of repair, of choosing connection over being right, are the threads that hold the tapestry of our 58 years together. Love is not the absence of conflict. Love is what you do when conflict arises. It is the choice, again and again, to turn toward each other, not away. It is the humble prayer to see with another's eyes and to listen with another's heart. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today, for sharing this quiet space. The journey of understanding another, as we've talked about, truly begins with the journey of understanding ourselves. If you're ready to take that first gentle step on your own path of reflection, I've created something just for you. It's a free guide called The First 5 Questions, a gentle guide to rediscovering your story. It's designed to help you begin this exact process in a quiet and meaningful way. You can download it right now for free from the link in the description or at eldersecos.com. Be gentle with yourself this week.